Hi actors, it is Wendy Lane Wright, talent manager at WAW Entertainment in Los Angeles, California. And I want to share with you today how I believe this is supposed to go for you. When you come into this world, I really believe that each person is built with a very specific talent, something that you're shaped for. When you excel at math, it's because you were shaped for math. You know, you have an aptitude for it. You can learn it much easier than people who are not shaped for it. You like it. You enjoy it. You get so excited when you do it, and time just seems to pass right by when you're doing it because you're in your natural gift. When you are shaped for acting or singing, you have a natural aptitude for it. You know, time passes by when you're doing it. It doesn't even feel like work. It is what you love. It is your passion. Now, not everybody's shaped for acting. Not everybody's shaped to be a mechanic or an engineer or, you know, a mathematician or a scientist. But if you are one of those people who are shaped for singing and for acting and writing and producing and being creative, then it's your job to follow that intention that was placed inside you. As you go through life, you know, you'll start to see, God, I feel so much more happy and more comfortable when I'm singing or performing than I am when I'm doing history or when I'm doing math. And then you'll discover that your gift, your passion, your life's calling is to be an entertainer. Now, that doesn't mean that's a given that you're going to be able to do it. Now that you've identified that that's your calling, that's where you have the most talent, that's where you are the most gifted. You also have to become aware of how the business works so that you can utilize those talents and gifts that you were born with and do what you love to do. Some people may say, well, I'm just not good at business, so I'm just not good at marketing myself. I'm just not good at promoting myself. All I want to do is act. Well, you know, if all you want to do is act, but you don't want to learn the show business, the business part of show business, you're going to have a hard time doing what it is you've been shaped to do. So you've got to get a mentor. Someone who can help you understand the business and break things down for you in a way that makes it comfortable and easy for you to navigate. So it's not complicated and you don't quit. So it doesn't get too stressful and you just give up. You don't want to do that, okay? And if you have like an amazing voice, you still have to train it. I can sing my butt off, but I still have to train it. I personally trained my voice probably 5-6 hours a day when I was in high school. I would come home from school, I would put on my music, I'd put on my tape recorder, and I would sing, and I would listen back and sing and listen back and correct what I did and correct my notes and sing until it sounded exactly like the right note that that singer sang. And I held it just as long as they did, not a second longer, maybe even longer. I worked so hard to become great at singing. And then I had to become, you know, learn how the business worked. You know, I got an agent, Bobby Ball Talent Agency, and my first agent was Susan Salgado, and she sent me out on auditions, and I remember booking jobs, and I got an opportunity to work with the Four Tops, which is really cool. That was my first job I booked with her, and I had to work really hard. I had to meet managers and producers, and I had to be in the business all of a sudden, but I was just a singer. You know, I was just an artist like you. I had to learn how the business worked. So what I did back then was I got jobs in offices of talent agents and managers and producers and directors so I could learn how the business worked from the inside out. And then I sang at night. I waitressed. I did whatever I had to do to make money while I auditioned, and I learned how the business worked until I started booking jobs. Till I started booking acting jobs, I started booking singing jobs, I started being in music videos, I started booking jingles, I started touring with people, I started making records, I had 2 record deals, I started booking TV movies, soap operas. I mean, I started working in my career. I'm saying all that because along the way, I had some fears. You know, I'll tell you honestly, when I knew I was shaped as a singer, but I was mortified and horrified, terrified to sing in front of people. I could not do it to save my life. I mean, I remember being a kid, and at SeaWorld, they'd ask for volunteers. You know, who wants to come up on stage and play with the dolphins? And I would literally freeze in panic that I might get called on. I didn't want anyone to point me out. I was so scared of rejection, of failure. I would like hide down in my chair. Please don't call me, please. I'd rather drop dead, you know, than you call me. That's how scared I was. But I had this deep passion to sing. I mean, every chance I was free, I was singing. I was in my house singing. I was in the car singing. I was with my friends singing. I loved to sing. So I knew that I had to get over that fear. Now, I was in the theater when I was a kid. And my mother was the treasurer of a theater company. Her best friend was the director, and she was the treasurer. And so she said to her friend, hey, my daughter, put her in the play. And so I had a little walk-on roll with a little tray. And I walked across the tray in the island of Pago Pago. I remember this. I was just a little girl. And I loved being on stage. I loved it. I loved it. And I knew that was my life. I knew it. And I knew that learning to sing in front of people was going to be a huge problem for me that I had to overcome. And when I was a kid, I had opportunities and I would never say yes because I was so afraid that I'd fail, so afraid of rejection. It took me years to overcome that fear. I had to do a lot of work. I did a workshop called Extant, which is now called the Forum, which was held in New York. And I did it a couple of times. It empowered me to own myself, to feel comfortable in my own skin, and to take steps towards what I really dreamed of. It gave me the strength and the power to take some steps towards it. I did another seminar called Insight, which is about loving yourself and accepting who you are. And that gave me some courage and some strength and some power to take some more steps. And I remember the very first offer that someone offered me, like a job acting on a show called Crime Stoppers. It was like a reenactment of crimes. They do that on like History Channel, Biography Channel, or some channel now. ID Discovery, they do that on now. But I did it years and years ago when I was 19 years old. I did 4 episodes of that. I had just come out of one of my workshops and I was feeling empowered and the answer, say yes to things. And the director called me at home and asked me if I wanted to be in an episode playing one of the murder victims and reenacting the crime. And I was like, yes. And then I hung up and I was like, oh my God, I said yes. So I just want you to see that I'm coming from a very similar place that you may be in. I understand what it feels like to be afraid. I understand what it feels like to have a deep passion and a goal and a dream, and to know that you have to work really hard to overcome your own fear and self-doubt and insecurities to proceed and become successful and to achieve what you dream of. So I understand that. And I did it. I overcame those fears. Okay, I came out to Los Angeles and I went in the studio after, I was singing in the bank. Here's how I got my first job. I was singing in the bank in line. Just singing, because when you're a singer, you just sing, you don't even notice you're doing it. And I was standing in line, and I got up to the bank teller, and the teller said, I heard you singing in line. You have a good voice, girl. And I was like, thank you. And he said, I'm working at Capitol Records. This is my day job. I'm a producer trying to make it in the business, but I work here at the bank during the day, but at night I work at Capitol Records, and I'm producing a record. I'd like you to come and, audition for us. And I was like, okay. Now, because I'd done that work on myself, I said yes. If he'd asked me, before I was 19, I'd have said no. No, because I was too scared. But my commitment to being fearless was so strong that I used every opportunity I could to break through my fear. Doing those workshops, I had to break through my fear to do them, because you have to confront those feelings of inadequacy and self-doubt. But I did that. So my commitment to being successful as a singer and to being a singer who can sing in front of people was greater than my fear. So I had said yes many times, and so I said yes to him. And I went over to Capitol Records and I sang on this demo, and they loved it. And I was terrified inside. I mean, my feelings inside were not matching. I mean, I'm sure I was like, thank you. But inside I was like, holy cow, it would kill me now. I was so mortified and terrified. And so they passed that music around Capitol, and I got asked to do backing vocals for a band there called Colorblind, which I did. And then they asked me to be in their video, and I said yes, and I kept saying yes. And then somebody else heard that demo that I did and asked me if I wanted to meet a producer from Europe, and I was like, yes. I was terrified every time. I was reading a book at that time called Feel the Fear and Do It Anyways by Dr. Susan Jeffers. And I was reading that to get through these yeses I was saying, So I was reading the book, and then I was trying to take the action. And I I met the producer. He flew in from Europe, and he was meeting numerous girls who were rappers and a bunch of singers. And I met with him, and he flew me to Europe, and I sang on a demo song that was played for the record label, and the record label asked me to join their group. That they were producing an album. They had these 2 girls who were rapping and asked me to be the lead singer of this group and gave me a record deal. I said yes. Our record was a top 20 hit. And all of a sudden, we had to make a video for MTV, BET, VH1. We had to tour all over Europe. We had to go like present at award shows. All of a sudden, I had to confront my fear every day. Every day. The only way you get over being afraid is by doing what you're afraid of. So I remember being on the set of shooting the music video and being like mortified, but still doing the best that I could. And you just do it. I had a great day I shot the first video to the song Feel the Rhythm, which was our top 20 hit. And then we went on the road. We were touring. And all of a sudden, I was in front of 5,000 people singing. I was in front of 1,000 people. I was on television singing. I was in front of like small record label parties. I was always singing in front of people. And the more I sang in front of people, the less fearful I got. And one time I was in Miami at the Winter Music Conference, and they were... we had like to present awards. It was like an music award show, and we were presenting awards, and we were the presenters. And then afterwards, we put on a show for everybody, and all the different acts were performing. And I remember Crystal Waters had this giant hit at the time, and she came up to me and handed me her manager's card and said, "My manager wants to represent you and would like to meet with you." And opportunities come to you if you're doing your work, if you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. If you are gifted, you do your gift. And while you're doing your craft, people will take notice and opportunities will come to you. I was singing somewhere, and a guy came up to me and said, I'm a producer, and I'm in Germany, and I'm doing a record, and I love your voice. Will you come sing on my record? Yes. So I drove to Dusseldorf, because I was in Holland at the time, and I sang on that record. Then I wrote a song, and I played it for a producer. And I also took it to a record label, and they wanted to sign that song as a single. And then another artist asked if she could have that song for her album, and would I produce it. And so I gave her the song, I produced it, and it was a top 10 hit. I made so much money off of that record. And the reason why you become successful is because you keep saying yes, even though you're afraid. You keep taking chances. You keep writing your songs and handing them to people. And you might sit there going, oh my God. I remember one time I was in the studio and they were listening to like 4 songs that I had written and sung. And I went in the other room and I was crying because I was so afraid that they might not like it. But I wasn't so afraid that I wouldn't let them hear it. There's the difference. I was so afraid while they were listening to it. I didn't stop myself. I didn't say no before they had a chance to hear it because I was afraid they wouldn't like it. I did the work on myself to become more confident. I did the work when I wrote the song and sang it. I did the work when I handed it to them. And then I went in the other side of the room and then behind another room and I cried because I was afraid that they might not like it. But it still was in their hands, and that's where it's supposed to be. When you're given a talent, it's your gift to share it. It's not your gift to hoard it. I mean, it's not for you to not give it to the world. It's for you to share it. But doesn't mean you won't feel afraid, but you have to do it anyway. You feel the fear, and then you do it anyway. That is what successful people do. Successful people are afraid all the time. Afraid of failing, afraid of not being liked, afraid of not being good enough, but they do it anyway. That's why when Sally Field won her Oscar, she said, "You like me. You really like me." It's like she couldn't believe it. She'd been acting and she'd been terrified. And when she won an award, she was like a confirmation that maybe they really did like her. Of course they liked her. It's so hard for us as artists to believe that people really like us, that they love us or they love our work. And if we judge ourselves too harshly and don't allow the work out, we can prevent ourselves from becoming the amazing creative beings that we were created to be. We were shaped to be the creative ones. We weren't shaped to be the mathematicians, or that's what we'd be doing. We were literally, I believe, selected by God, given a talent, and shaped to be the creative ones. Therefore, it's your job, it's my job, to express that creativity, that talent. That's what we're here for. So your life's purpose is to overcome whatever blocks you from sharing your talent. Your life's